Hello and welcome to the 43 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. Today's episode brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact the performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. I want to also say thank you to Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level of our sport. See pitchlogic.com for more information. If you are watching this, you can see that I am joined by, on my right, the Director of Credibility at D1Baseball and Prep Baseball, David Seifert, and also the gentleman that once coined the phrase, French is an outrage, Fitty Barrels, Aaron J. Fitt. Gentlemen, happy Tuesday to you. How we doing?
Bonjour, Runes.
Bitsy, don't backtrack. You've started a verbal war with the country of France. I think you should just lean into that.
No, listen, I got no tolerance. I got no tolerance for your language. You can bring it on. Let's go. Let's tangle.
Let's tangle. I love that. How do you say let's tangle in France? In French. Saif, you're looking dapper. You've got your Prep Baseball hoodie on, which is outstanding. You've got your D1 Baseball hat on, the new hats that Kendall has created. So Saif, I want to start us off with a big picture question. So the draft, this is a prospect podcast. That's what we're going to talk about. Kind of check in, see who are the risers. We're going to really focus on the risers. So the draft is July 14th, Sunday, July 14th. And if we have a game 3 of the College World Series, that will be June 24th. There are 20 days between the last game of the college season and the MLB Draft. 20 days. That's almost an eternity. So Saif, I'm going to steer the jury a little bit here, but you will always push back if you disagree, which I love. Is it safe to say that the consensus in the scouting community, from the upper levels to the boots on the ground, is that they do not care for the draft being this late? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think it's a very fair assessment. I think they preferred it earlier, obviously, like it was, but that also wasn't ideal because a guy would be on the on-deck circle at the College World Series and he'd hear his name taken in the first round. I think was Swansby. Was he?
Yeah,
Dansby, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't think there is an ideal date for the draft. So not going to give any pushback. I would agree with your statement. I just think it's going to take the NCAA and Major League Baseball just like coordinating it as opposed to what it is now.
Can we add Swansby Danson to the all-time Seif name botchings? That's
did I just botch it? My apologies.
Swansby.
My apology. Golden Eagles, Aces, Purple
Exactly.
Eagles.
Purple Eagles of Niagara. Yeah, Saif, you didn't botch it. You just created a new nickname for Dansby Swanson. Swansby. Like, what's wrong with that? Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it's like Seal. It's like Prince. Like, why wouldn't he want that?
Like Jock Tani, like yours, Jock Tani last year.
Yeah, that's right. Amen.
Yeah.
So here's my thought, Fitzy, and I don't want to go too far down this pipe dream because that's what it is, a pipe dream, because it would involve what you just said, Saif, the NCAA and MLB getting together. Okay, next, right? Like, we know that ain't happening, right? So, but like, think about it. Like, there's those 3 weeks there, Fitzy. Like, we could do a lot there. Like, one idea is we could move the draft up so that families who have to decide whether to sign or go to school have more time to make that decision and then get ready for school. Like, that would be a really nice thing for the constituents, the constituents that really matter in this, the players and their families. So that would be one thing. We could move the draft up and give those families a little bit more space to make a very important life decision. Pardon the sarcasm.
I thought that was a good one. The constituents that really matters, the players. You know what? The owners just spit their drinks out when you said that, man. Right. You all know it's the TV partners that matter.
Yeah, that's right. Well said. So, but here's the other thing, Fitzy. Let's say that the MLB is convicted on, hey, we want the draft as part of All-Star Weekend. That's really problematic for the families, but it is what it is. Why? Like, there's your opportunity to move the college season back right there. Now, me personally, I'd like to add a week to the postseason and do the 32 hosts and that type of thing. But that's 3 weeks right there. Like, and I don't know, like I live in Arizona, right? I love the games in February, but I'm also not naive to think that games in February is an awesome idea, across the country. So I don't know. What say you, Fitzy? Do you have a preference there?
As far as the draft date, I think the thing that would be ideal would be having it, like they tried to do in 2020 before the pandemic hit. I think having it in Omaha the week before the College World Series would be fantastic, and I think that timing works for everybody. If we're stuck with the All-Star weekend as our draft date, and we got those 3 weeks to play with, like you're talking about. I mean, I've always been a supporter of adding an extra week. I love the 3 series of best of 3, or 3 weekends of best of 3 leading up to Omaha. I love that proposal. We've talked about that many times. I also just plain don't care for starting the season in the middle of winter. But that's just not going to change. So I'm not going to tilt with that windmill today. But as it is, I mean, it seems like MLB has no particular interest in changing the draft date. They seem to like it where it is. And so, but it is odd because you're right. Like all the scouts, the scouts and the organizations, the front office people, they don't like it. All the college coaches certainly don't like it. It's not enough time to try to reconstruct your roster on the fly, trying to, figure out your scholarship allocations, who's going to be here, who's not going to be here. It's a quick turnaround for those guys. It's harder for the players. It's harder for everybody, except I guess it gives you a little bit of programming on All-Star Weekend. Is that what I guess that's the whole reason we're doing this, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, the programming. It's just like the dumbest. Like that's 20 absolutely wasted days in our sport. Yeah. Like it's just like, and days are precious. We all agree there. But anyway,
Runes, I am going to give you some pushback now. I don't agree with it being 20 wasted days. I don't think the draft, in the perfect scenario, I don't think the draft should be before the College World Series or before the college season's done. Just because if somebody gets injured during the College World Series and a team has already taken that player, that's just not fair to the team. So I don't think it's 20 wasted days, but it is too long. So if it was 7 or 10 days between the last out of the World Series and the first pick of the draft, I think that would be like the ultimate. But going beyond that or in front of that, however you want to look at it, I think if Major League Baseball would just be like every other sport and you have to declare for the draft, you are either in or you are out. And I get it. It's not a player thing. It's not an owner thing. It is an agent thing. It is a players association thing because they don't want it any other way because it gives them less control. So I get it. But I think that if you just had the player declare whether they're in or they're out, that would solve every single problem that you have. It would, because then college coaches would know what their roster is because these 5 guys declared and these 3 guys didn't. So boom, there it is. You know it's coming back. Clubs know who's in and who's out. And I'm not saying you have to declare on January 1st of your eligible year, but let's just say May 1st. You have to say I'm in or I'm out. That way you know if you're injured, you know if you're having a great season, you're selling high, or you're having a bad year, so you're going to take your name out. I mean, it gives everybody enough time to make the decision to get the best value or just to go back to school and try it all over. So, it doesn't have to be in January 1st. There has to be a good date in there where you're either in or you're out, just like every other sport. So that's my beef. So there's my pushback.
Would you, though, then allow players who don't get drafted or who get drafted late and don't get a reasonable offer? Like, would they then be allowed to go back to school?
I think that's something that is probably beyond, like, what's going around in my brain. And there's a lot more people that know better the right solution to that. Is it similar? Do you make it similar to the NBA, NFL? I don't know, but that is obviously a great question. Yeah. I don't think there's an easy answer, but I think the easiest way to get everything in line so everything is much more simple is you declare.
I just think that because there are so many rounds in our draft compared to those other drafts, because there are, minor league affiliates and things, and it's just because there's just so much uncertainty about a guy's draft stock if you're not like an elite guy. I'm like, sure, for the elite guys that makes plenty of sense, but like if you're a good college junior at a mid-major who maybe you'll be drafted in the 10th round, maybe you won't be drafted at all, and it's like, and then if it doesn't work out in your favor, then that player's just burned. I just think that unfortunately the system that we have is not ideal, but it does kind of work given the structure of baseball and the uncertainty around our draft.
Yeah, I forget. I wrote it. It was probably 4 years ago, and I wrote it very detailed. But at the time, I did write in there, like, for those guys, if you declared, you were assured a minimum bonus. I think it was 150. Like if you declare that as your minimum bonus, that is the minimum you will get. So for those guys, those 10th rounders, those 15th rounders, whatever. But it was also written into their, like, in addition, you get a salary. It is a salary job. So you're making $35,000 per year with benefits, just like, $35,000, that's a low paying job coming out of college, but at least it's a livable wage in addition to your bonus, in addition to benefits and, everything else that comes with a regular full-time job. So it was part of this grand plan I wrote about 4 or 5 years ago, but just to back it up even more, I just think it's all going to start with you declare. You're either in or you're out. So anyway.
Interesting. It's here's my capper on this. Eventually, all the craziness that's being created by college football's upheaval will, it won't last forever, right? And then sports like us, right now there's no opportunity for us to improve our sport, in my opinion, because everybody's just so focused on football and conference realignment and playoffs and all that stuff. Eventually those storms have to calm. And then there's a real opportunity for us in baseball to think, what's our next best step? And I do think I liked your pushback there, Seif, like 20 wasted days is too strong. But I do think there's a gap here there's something better that could be done with those 20 days, I guess is the way I would phrase it. And I don't know what that is, but maybe there's a couple of really good things we can do. So anyway, well, let's speaking of all this stuff, let's talk about some of the risers. So there's a couple articles on the site right now, Seif, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. There's a risers article that you wrote where you kind of broke down some of the players, and then our midseason top 100 college players is also on the website. Is that correct?
100% correct. Yes.
Yeah. And so, Seif, and I think we should all talk about this. Let's not bury the lead. Charlie Condon is the lead. It's so funny. I wrote this yesterday, or I said it out loud. Charlie Condon is out homering 58 teams right now. He's got more home runs than 58 college teams, Division I college teams, which is nuts. But Seif, you start us off on Charlie Condon. I mean, I can't remember where we had him ranked to start the season, but it was good. But now, there's legit 1-1 talk.
Yeah, we had him ranked number 9. Now we have number 3 with Caglione and Bazzana in front of him. But I mean, you can make a case for any of those 3. I guess my strongest right now is still Cags. I saw him this past weekend at Missouri, and I'm not down on him. He only went 1 1/3 and gave up 7 runs. But offensively, he was fine. But yeah, Condon just having an unbelievable season. He's made so just to jump from number 9 to number 3. There will be a high school guy or 2 sandwiched in between pick 9 and pick 3. Probably just 1 by the sounds of it. But that's $3 million of signing bonus. So it's a significant jump. It's only 6 up in the rankings, but it's $3 million when you're way up there. But yeah, I mean, what do you say about the guy? He's hitting over 450. He has 20 bombs. I mean, it's a pro ready swing. It's not some what they used to call an aluminum bat swing that only works with the gorilla ball or whatever. Yeah, I mean, he's the real deal. And like Hagen Smith, there's in 2s. I think we had him at 10th. Now we have him 5th. So, I mean, again, not a huge jump in the rankings, but a pretty large jump when you're just talking signing bonus. So I'm not sure if I'm answering all your questions here,
no,
but last year was a 3-headed monster, right? We had Cruz, we had Skeens, and we had Langford, right? And we had Cruz 1-1 all year for us, and then we switched to Skeens at the end. But any of those 3 would have been a great pick at 1-1. I mean, they were just like those were things. This year, we had like 6 or 7, and like Weatherholt's healthy and going now. Kurtz is back and healthy and going. There was talk about both those guys at 1-1, but then you have guys like Braden Montgomery who jumped up, Chase Burns, who I don't say he jumped up, but I mean, he's doing everything that people thought he would do, plus Cags, plus Condon, plus Bazzana. I mentioned Hagen Smith, and then Braden Montgomery, who I saw at Texas A&M 2 weeks ago. I mean, that guy, if you can make improvement to your swing, he's made them. I mean, just like Condon has made improvements to his swing. Montgomery's right-handed swing is absolutely beautiful now. It matches his left-handed swing. He does it from both sides. He profiles perfectly to right field. So, I mean, that's another guy I would throw in the 1-1 conversation along with, like I said, Kurtz, Weatherholt, Smith, Burns, Condon, Bazzana, Caglione. So we got like 8 of them instead of 3.
Awesome.
So it's going to get fun.
Yeah. Fitzy, go ahead, Fitzy.
Yeah, I have a couple of things I want to say and ask the group here. First off, I mean, just talking about the 1-1 conversation. I wonder if the industry consensus has, it sounds like just, you see other stuff and you talk to other people. Like, I wonder if the industry has Condon at number one. I personally, I don't know. Like, I agree with you, Saif. It feels like there's like 5 or 6 guys you could comfortably put at number one. I think Cags is just the most unique out of all these guys because of the insane, two-way tools, as we've talked about many times. I mean, a lefty who throws 100 and also has, elite raw power and performance as a hitter. I mean, it's just not really there's not really a precedent for that coming out of college baseball. There just isn't. Now, whether I don't know what he is at the next level. Like, does he have enough pitchability to actually, profile as a pitcher or to do both? I mean, I don't know if you can walk away from a lefty who throws 100. It's just that simple. Like, it's just, it's right now, obviously he still has a long way to go. It's kind of seems like he's the same guy he was last year as a pitcher. Like, he'll show you flashes of brilliance, but it's just the pitchability hasn't, I mean, it's basically the same as last year. He's it's going to be up and down. Maybe he's, and if he's just a bat, if you think long-term, he's never going to have the pitchability to do that or to do both, then, I mean, for me, he's behind Bazzana and Condon and some of the other guys. I like the bat a lot, but I just think Bazzana, for me, he's my favorite guy. Like, if I'm picking number one, that's probably who I'm taking. I think Bazzana and Condon are both safer. I think Burns and Smith and Montgomery are all safer than Cags. I just think if you like Cags at 1-1, it's probably because you think we're going to give this guy a try to do both. And again, like, the upside with that is insane. It's so exciting, but it's also the riskiest of all these guys. So I just think that's a really fun dynamic.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. Yes.
Hey, so I would say, Saif, I'm gonna make my comment on Charlie Condon. I'm so smitten with him as a person. Like, he's bright and he has shown toughness. Think about this. Charlie Condon, I'm gonna try to not to be like critical, but Charlie Condon did not get one single at bat on a not very good Georgia team his freshman year. They think about this. Like, you in your heart of hearts think that you can play in the big leagues, and you're watching a team not play great. I mean, Georgia wasn't terrible, but they weren't great. And you're just rotting on the bench. And then, you've got to go to the Northwoods League, not got to go, but, like, you're not going to get to go to the Cape or any of that, like the fancy pants stuff. You got to go to the Northwoods League and catch up on at bats. And he did not leave early. He went up there and grinded it out. And now it's a 2-year, like, Haley's Comet type of trajectory. And I just like, he's very bright when you hear him interviewed. I like that he was very under-recruited in high school too, which is probably part of this. I just love his story because we know there are tough times coming. I just, like you said, Fitzy, like, I just think him and Bazzana are safer. He just is bigger and more projectable than Bazzana. Like, Bazzana is kind of plug and play. Like, he is what he is, right? And which is awesome. Like, who wouldn't want that? So, Saif, here's the question I have for you. I think when I agree with our rankings, right? I participated, but when I look at the player in the best value per spot, if that makes any sense, if I'm team number 6 and I'm getting Braden Montgomery, holy crap, did I just hit the lottery? Like, how many years is Braden Montgomery sitting there for me at number 6? Do you think that's a fair assessment, Saif?
I think you're right on. Yeah, I mean, 6, 7, even like we have Kurt's 8th in our midseason rankings, just basically because he felt because he was injured and wasn't producing while all these other guys just took off. So, but I know it wasn't us, but I know others in the industry had Kurt's at 1-1, like in like their top guy. Others do have Condon now, but yeah, I mean, there's just 8 really guys that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Yeah. I think the next part of the pack is like the Santucci's, and for me, the Yasavage, Loma Vida, those type of guys. But like, those 8 have really stood out. So yeah, if you're picking in the top 10, you're getting yourself a really good high school player, or you're getting yourself a really proven good profiling college bat. So yeah, it's a really good year to pick in the top 10.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you guys, because I'm going to ask you this, Saif, because I couldn't decide on Burns versus Smith. all year long, I've been weighing this question in my mind. Who would I take if I had to take one of these guys? I don't think there's a wrong answer. But like I've gone back and forth. I still don't know where I stand. Can you walk us through your thought process and how we wound up with Burns 4 and Smith 5?
In this case, I think with Burns, they both have swing and miss stuff, fastball, slider. I mean, just unbelievable. I think just how Burns does it is why we lean Burns barely over Smith. Now, Smith actually, believe it or not, he gets more swing and miss on his slider than Burns, and just crazy. Their numbers are absolutely crazy. Who was it? It was Joe Healy compared Hagen Smith, or was it Smith to Skeens, or was it Burns?
As far as production, yes.
Yeah, just crazy how similar it is. Skeens is in a world of his own, but just crazy how similar. But I think in this case, we just went Burns over Smith, and we were just splitting hairs. Typically, I'd go lefty over righty, but I think in this case, we went righty over lefty because of the combination of the two pitchers, the swing miss rate, but also just how he does it. He's not that Smith's not athletic, but Burns is more athletic. I mean, Burns is about as athletic as you can be. So I know that's kind of stumbling around the explanation there, but like it was splitting hairs. And I think the end of the year will provide like, hey, who sustains it and who's healthy, right? That's basically like we have 6 more weeks and plus the playoffs, postseason. So the answer will come about, but right now, yeah, it's there right there.
This is how close these guys are. If you look at the Synergy leaderboard page on our site, whiff percentage on all pitch types. Chase Burns, 50.2%. Hagen Smith, 49.8%. It's just like, that's how close we're talking as far as just like, just getting guys to swing and miss in the zone with all their stuff. It's incredible. And again, like I'm totally with you. I think Burns has the better delivery. There is, there's a tick more velocity there, but I mean, obviously you're talking about Smith, a lefty who can show you 99, like that's pretty special. And the production wise, they're comparable. I mean, Smith's a ridiculous winner with a ridiculous track record that goes back to high school, as everyone knows, with 7 no-hitters in high school and all that stuff. And he has made the leap. There's funk, there's deception. They're both just keep getting better though. I mean, Burns now, it's like he's got 4 pitches. You'll see them. He'll show you the changeup. He'll show you that slower breaking ball, the curveball that to get you over, or even miss some bats with. So I mean, like it's and Smith, it still feels like it's more fastball slider, but he'll show you the changeup too. I mean, it's just very, very close. It's just basically you want the righty with a little bit more ease of operation, or do you want the lefty? That's kind of what it comes down to. But it's a good problem to have. Again, I've talked myself around in circles on this question, so I just wanted to bring that one up.
You almost want the team ahead of you to make the decision for you. Hey, Seif and Fitzy, I'd be curious your take on this too. So we have 3 Tennessee Volunteers as risers. So Billy Amick, Dylan Dreiling, and Christian Moore. So Seif, I'm gonna be a little bit of a cynic here. Like what? I'm going to say that Lindsey Nelson Stadium, like it couldn't be a better environment to hit in for Tennessee, these 3 players, right? First of all, we're in an explosive environment with the balls and the bats. Second of all, Lindsey Nelson Stadium, I would argue, is one of the most hitter-friendly stadiums in college baseball. Like it's downhill, it's not very big, the ball jumps there. And then you get to hit in a lineup like this. Like that's the other thing that I don't want to whiff on is Tennessee's lineup is so like we didn't even mention Blake Burke in that threesome, right? Like we didn't even mention, Bargo, or, I mean, they've just got a million hitters. Like they're so good. But how does the industry look at that, Seif? Like, are we worried that these players are a product of a turbocharged environment? Or like, no, they're just really good players.
I look at it as just really good players because if you want to just throw stats at me, then what was Drew Gilbert? He's a darn good pro player right now. Trey Lipscomb just debuted or made the team out of spring training. I mean,
great point.
People thought Lipscomb was all like, oh, it was the bat, or oh, it was Willingport South, as you would have lovely termed it and coined it in the past. But like those are legit guys to this day, and I think, I put the onus on me. Like I saw Tennessee in the fall; they played Virginia Tech. It was all good, but like Amick, Dreiling, even Blake Burke, and Moore on that day were just very like, okay, we know they're guys. They're going to be guys. And we just may have underranked them to start the season, and they have risen. But, I mean, with that, like Dryling's sophomore eligible, right? So he didn't play a full season as a freshman. So he only has one season of college under his belt, and it wasn't a full season. But he's hitting for power. He's walking just as much as he's striking out. He's got all 5 tools, and he's now showing them on a daily basis. Amick was a transfer. He only DH'd last year, right? And in the fall, the question was like, well, can he play third? Can he play third? It wasn't like he can. How good is he going to be? But now for me, after seeing him, the guy's going to play third base. It's a matter of how good he's going to be at third base. He's going to be at least an average defender at third base, whereas in the fall, it was like, gosh, he was a DH. Why was he a DH all season at Clemson? So he has improved. You know, Dreiling has improved. Christian Moore, and again, I'll just put it on me, like Christian Moore is like the pitcher I just saw from Vanderbilt this past weekend, this past week, Bryce Cunningham. Cunningham and Moore, they've always been enigmas for me. Like I'll go, like I saw Cunningham as a freshman, he was a first rounder. Like I'm like, that guy's going to be a first rounder. And then I saw him in the Cape a couple times and a couple more times his sophomore spring, you know, just around. And I'm like, it's the same guy, but it's a different guy. And Moore's kind of always been that way for me. Like he was good with the USA Collegiate National Team, but he wasn't great. His numbers were good, but they weren't great. You know, he can't play shortstop. Can he play shortstop? Well, I don't think he can because I don't think he has the throwing accuracy. But he's definitely a second baseman. He's got all 5 tools. And at Alabama 3 weeks ago, he showed me all 5 tools. He can defend at second. He can hit for power. He can hit the breaking ball. He can hit the fastball. I mean, the guy has 5 tools. Now, he's not a base stealer. I don't think he does not have the instincts to be a 20, 30 stolen base guy. But he's going to steal you 10 and hit you 20 home runs. And he sold me on that weekend in Alabama. I'm like, okay, he has all the tools and he's putting this together. And then the final thing on Moore, he's also cut down the strikeout rate. Coming in the year was like at 25% maybe in his career, and he's below 20 now. So that's always been the big thing for me is just that 20% flat rate of strikeout. That's the that's the line for me.
Yeah, so. That's awesome. Tennessee's my national championship pick, and you just fired me up there, Seif, because they've dropped some games that have been a little curious, and AJ Causey getting roughed up 2 consecutive SEC starts had me spooked, but I like what you said there. Fitzy, you were at Clemson, Florida State. Did you see James Tibbs in person?
Yes. God, I'm so glad you brought this up because this is exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Because if he didn't, you would.
Right.
Yeah. Love it. And I like that Seif highlighted Tibbs also on our midseason risers piece. I'm all in on this bat. I'm sold. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Last year you had Nolan Shanwell get drafted 11th overall as a bat. I mean, it's just if you believe this guy's going to hit, he was a first baseman. Shen was a first baseman. Now he could play some other places a little bit, but he's a first baseman. I think Tibbs actually can play right field. Like he's actually leaned himself up. He throws well. He moves better than you think. He even steal you some bases. Like but it's a bat, right? It's like Shanwell. It's the left-handed hitter. He's got more home runs than strikeouts, just like Shanwell. I love that profile. I know a lot of teams, pro teams love that profile. Condon also fits that profile. Bazana fits that. Guys that have more home runs than strikeouts. Like that's crazy. But this is an elite left-handed hitter who's hit for 3 years. He controls his zone. He hits for power. He uses all fields. He's a hitting machine. It's not quite Shinwell's build. He's not 6'4". He's more like a Kyle Schwarber type. I think offensive profile, right? It's just that left-handed power hitter who's going to give you quality at bats, control the zone, whatever. But again, I think he's going to be a better defender than Schwarber, whether he's in the outfield or at first base. I think that he's more athletic than you think. Again, the body does look better. But I mean, if you just want to bat a guy that is a slam dunk big leaguer, he's going to play, 14 years in the big leagues and just hit. That's James Tibbs for me.
Seif, how to so let me ask it in terms of Sean Ewell, because he's so similar to Tibbs. Do you think every team in MLB last year had Sean Ewell as a first rounder?
I think as a first rounder, yes. Maybe not mid first rounder or where he went, but yes, definitely. Yeah, and I think.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just saying, and to Fitty's point, like Tibbs, he's gonna go in the first round just because when teams get on the clock and all these preps come in with their signing bonus demands, that's how it works. I mean, let's be honest here. those goes, okay, well, I'm not going to pay that high school guy $5 million, $4 million, whatever. Tibbs hitters, college hitters with proven track records, 3-year proven track records, they fly up the board and they fly off the board. And I just think Tibbs is that guy. He'll go probably start thinking about Tibbs around pick 20, 25, somewhere in there.
I'm taking the over on that. I bet he goes somewhere in the same. I just have a hunch, same neighborhood as Shunwell last year. Whether we value him there or not, I do. I realize that I'm the high man on him, but I think just some club that values analytics and values the bat period is going to say, like, hey, this guy he's one of the best pure hitters in this draft. He's going to go, I think, in the top 15 picks.
Yeah, and every draft is different. I mean, we had Justin Foscue. He went in the top 10 or 12.
Yeah,
5 years ago, and he just debuted in the big leagues this year, I believe, or late last year. But I know they play different positions. But that was Foscue's tool, was his bat, and that's why he went where he did.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so funny. I think Florida State's not going anywhere either, and that Tibbs is going to get more looks, bigger stages, those types of things. Florida State had 23 wins last year. They could literally double that this year. They could go 46 wins, go just double their wins year over year. So, hey, Seif and Fitzy, let me give you the next group of players. Let's wrap with these players. So some of the other risers were Walker Yannick, the catcher at Sam Houston, Ryan Johnson, the ace at Dallas Baptist, Trey Yesavage, who you mentioned, Seif, who's the ace at East Carolina, and then Bryce Cunningham at Vandy. I want to group them together because I think they're unique. Cunningham is like this physical Vandy right-hander. They've had a million of them, right? Like that's like, it's like somebody saying a grocery store is carrying eggs today. It's like, yeah, that's what grocery stores do, right? Vandy's got some 6'4" righty that throws 100. Like, yeah, of course. They probably have 5 of them. And then Yesavage has got an interesting mix, right? It's kind of over the top, and I think he throws a split with a decent level of frequency. Ryan Johnson's a quick pitcher with a side slot, but it's still big velo. And then, Yannick is interesting, Seif, because he's at Sam Houston, right? So he's in Conference USA. It's kind of like Sean Ewell, although what's different is he hasn't been in Conference USA the whole time. Yannick might have played in 3 conferences. He was in the WAC and the Conference USA, and I don't think he was ever in the Southland. But yeah, Seif, why don't you kick us off, and then you go second, Fitzy. Take any of those 4 players, and who's the one that jumps out and why?
Well, for me, I got to go 2. I'm sorry, because I saw Johnson pitch against Yannick. So,
oh, nice.
And I've had really good fortune. I didn't have the best fortune this past weekend because Kaggs was so-so, Cunningham was so-so, Tommy White was so-so. But I have had really good luck and fortune this year, starting with Hagen Smith's unbelievable outing in week 2. And then I got to see Ryan Johnson for DBU go against Yannick. But Ryan Johnson was unbelievable. And we liked him coming in. I mean, he was with the collegiate national team, and I saw him as a freshman, and I saw him at the Stillwater Regional this last year. So I had some background on Johnson, but he was unbelievable. And just to watch him pitch, I know there's more to scouting than just like having fun watching a guy pitch, but he is Mark Fidrich. I mean, he is back there behind the mound, pacing. The energy in the dugout is unbelievable when he pitches. There's a huge difference between when he pitched and then their other games, but he's just fun. He's throwing 3 pitches, 4 strikes, just filling up. The fastball's moving in right-handers off the plate. Then he comes with the hard slider, and they're swinging through it. He battles lefty with a cutter, which is another plus pitch. And it's just fun. And he is filling the zone. The downside is he looks like a reliever. It's an abbreviated delivery. And just like a softball pitcher, they don't do the knee lift. They just kind of do the push and thrust the knee. His knee doesn't get any higher than like a fast pitch softball hurler. So it's a unique delivery, but it works for him. Like if he didn't have command of his pitches, you'd be like, he's a reliever. He doesn't control anything, but he just fills the zone. He can spot the fastball. He can work the cutter in on the lefty's hands. He can do everything with his pitches. He doesn't really have a changeup, but he doesn't need it. But so I guess I talked about Yannick before. Yannick actually battled him. Yannick had 3 very good at-bats against Johnson. And at the time, he had like a 25-game hitting streak on the line. And he came up with 2 outs, runner on, bottom 9th inning. Johnson was still out there at pitch 100. Yannick lines a double in the right center field. He had worked a walk the previous at-bat against Johnson. So for Yannick to do what he did, on the night Johnson was having one of his best career outings, up to 97 or 98 miles per hour with a plus cutter, plus slider, speaks volumes about Yannick, because he has always been one of the premier defensive guys in the college class behind the plate. And now he's like, hey, he was on every pitch too. Like, the pitches weren't fooling him. He was locked in there. He wasn't just getting lucky. So I had to highlight both those guys, a little long-winded as usual, but that's what I got.
Love it. Go ahead, Fitzy.
I'll talk about Savage because and Seif, I think you wrote him up in Scouting Trail earlier this year, or somebody. He's great. He's again 3-year track record of performance. He started out in the bullpen as a freshman, was a dominant ace last year, and even more dominant this year. It's a guy with a who misses a ton of bats. I mean, he's got 74 strikeouts and 48 innings. But he only has 14 walks. I mean, it's and last year was the same deal, 105 strikeouts to 23 walks. Like, what do you want? I mean, he misses bats. He's got 3 pitches. He throws strikes. He competes. It's 93, 97 from that high slot. And he's got you mentioned he does have that split, but and that split is a nice weapon. But the slider, guys, we talked about Burns, we talked about Smith. Savage has a higher whiff rate with his slider than both those guys, 68%. 68.3% with the slider this year. It's unbelievable. I mean, that pitch, mid 80s, just sharp late power pitch. And he's just, for me, he checks a lot of boxes, man. As far as you're looking for power arms in this draft, I mean, it's Burns and Smith are in their own category, but Trey is not too far behind. And he might, him and Santucci are probably the next guys. Maybe you take the lefty. I don't know. It's kind of that same conversation we just had with Smith versus Burns. Santucci, they're different guys. One's lefty, one's a righty. They both have a lot going for them, and I don't know that there's a wrong answer there either.
Yeah, they do a little differently. One's a little bit better athlete. Yeah, very good comparison.
It's interesting. It's such a paradox too. I'll wrap it with this, that it just, we've all been to a bunch of games this year, and some of the pitching is just horrid, like just skill level wise, like they're good arms, but they just can't make pitches and they're getting just beat up. But then there's a very large group of elite pitching. Like I feel like the group of elite arms is a bigger group. And then there's almost like no middle. And then there's just like a bunch of guys that are desperately trying to figure it out. But having a big group of elite arms is fun. And, there some of them have limitations, but it's really cool. Hey, Seif, as far as, we're 3 months from the draft. What will be our cadence for prospect lists or those types of things? Like, what happens next for us? Will you do an updated list before the draft or during the season, or what happens next?
We'll have 2 more. We'll have one right around, I think we always put one out right around conference tournament time. So when the regular season ended, we'll update it. And then we'll have one 2 or 3 weeks before the draft, which after the College World Series is completed. So we got 2 more coming up.
Love it. Seif, that's a great segue, because my next read is right around conference tournaments. Postseason baseball is right around the corner. It's week 9 already. This year's Phillips 66 Big 12 Baseball Championship is bigger and better than ever. It's May 21st to the 25th. Only 10 teams will vie for the Big 12 title at climate-controlled Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers. Also, make sure you elevate your experience with new premium ticket options, premier seats, club access, complimentary perks. If you were curious about those things, you should ask Kendall Rogers, because he's always in one of those suites when he goes to those games. You secure your tickets today by visiting globelifefield.com/Big12, globelifefield/Big12. Fitzy and Seif, you guys got to partake of those suites, right? Earlier in the season?
Yeah, we were there.
Together. Yes, we were together.
We were hanging out in the suite right behind home plate for the Hagen Smith Oregon State game. That was pretty special to be up close to that. Something that special was awesome.
Yeah, Globe Life is that is it's so new and nice. It's like you feel like you stole a country club membership to me. I love going there for the Big 12 tournament. It's really, really cool. Hey, let's wrap with this. Fitzy, where are you headed this weekend? And Seif, what's your next scouting expedition?
I got West Virginia hosting UCF this weekend. We got JJ Weatherholt back in action, as Seif alluded to earlier. That'll be fun. We got West Virginia tied for first place, UCF in the top 25. Kind of a unexpectedly excellent matchup this weekend up there in Morgantown.
Do we know what J&J stands for? Is it Jonathan Jr.? Anybody?
Sure.
Put that on your research for this weekend, Fitzy.
I'll work on it.
Yeah, workshop that. Saif, where are you headed next?
I'm heading down to Louisville. I'm going to do some ACC here in back-to-back weekends. Haven't did much ACC yet, but I'll be at Louisville watching Virginia. And then 2 weeks out, I'm going to double up the Florida State at Wake Forest with UNC. I think UNC's at NC State, or is it reverse? I'm not sure, but I'll be going between those two places. One's a Thursday, Saturday series. The other's a Friday, Sunday, so it will work out pretty good.
What a weekend that'll be! Oh my gosh,
ACC, awesome. Here I come.
We'll be tag teaming that one too, Saif. I got that circled as well. It's a good weekend.
I'm gonna get my Tibbs looks and my Burns look, another look at all those guys. So
absolutely,
yeah, and Nikki Nukes is on it now. So love it, gentlemen. Thank you for this. This was awesome. I love this. I got to just kind of sit here and take in the information. It was excellent. Saif, thank you as always. And that's it. Everybody have a great week, and we'll catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.
Thanks, Rins.